Good morning. Welcome to Bitcoiners United. I have TomTaber here with the Bitcoin Initiative, or sorry, the Beef Initiative. He's the Director of Executive Outreach at the Beef Initiative. I have met him a couple of times at a couple of different Bitcoin events, and it was really apparent to me early on. He's just the most genuine guy, all around really nice guy. He has been traveling all around the world, meeting Bitcoiners, future Bitcoiners, ranchers, and future ranchers. And he's promoting sustainable, decentralized, healthy food systems and economies. The problem of our fiat food system is just so apparent nowadays. And so through the Beef Initiative and working with Texas Slim, Tom is presenting a tangible solution that can repair all these things. It's literally on the ground, first principles approach to how people can secure their future, help fix our food systems, and fix the world. So thank you, Tom, for joining me this morning.
Thanks, Fritz. It's great to be here. It's a great honor to be here as well. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time.
That was a great intro too. Thank you.
Yeah, we're busy guys, and so fitting these in where we can is always, it's a treat to have a good guest on. And we initially met, I saw you at Bitcoin Veterans in Nashville last fall.
Yep.
And then I saw you again at El Salvador. We were at El Salvador, and from a distance, I saw you, and I'm like, I know that guy. Where have I met that guy? And like somebody famous, somebody like, I didn't know if I'd met you before, but I had seen you.
Right.
And so we got to chatting, and just from the get-go, it was like, oh yeah, Bitcoin Veterans. We were at the Max and Stacy golf tournament. You were there with Texas Slim.
Yeah,
I didn't realize how involved you were with ranching and the Beef Initiative and what Texas Slim is doing. But you have been busy. So how did you first meet Texas Slim?
That's a great question. We met about 5 years ago. The very second Beef Initiative event he ever held was in Crawford, Colorado at Jason Rick's ranch. And it was an amazing event. Just so many people came together at that one thing, ranchers and Bitcoiners together. And that's when we first met. We've been friends for years throughout, all over the world. We've hung out, and we just, we're always supporting each other, always good friends with each other. But interesting, between the time we saw each other at the Veterans event in Nashville and the time we saw each other at the Max and Stacy's golf event in El Salvador, was actually when I joined officially into the Beef Initiatives. Slim's for years been trying to get me in, and I was like, well, I have a whole busy life. But what really changed it for me was understanding exactly what the Beef Initiative was and what the goal and the mission was. I thought, well, I just don't want to be a salesman for beef. That's not very, I mean, that's nice, but that's not an important life mission of mine. But when I realized it was aligned with my life mission, which is to create more freedom for people, more freedom for ourselves, raising our consciousness. And you think, well, how could the Beef Initiative be part of that? Well, it actually is. And it's a mission to actually save our food security systems around the world. We're starting with Texas and El Salvador. So they're two places where we're really focusing a lot of energy, and very important energy. There's some big problems in the food system that have just come to light that a lot of people may not want to know about yet, which I want to talk about today with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm managing a cough here. My apologies, but
it's okay.
When I first started learning into Bitcoin, getting into it steadily, going down the rabbit hole, I mean, you hear about like diet and seed oils and carnivore diets and the food, and I'm like, okay, I get fiat food. So then when I first heard about the Beef Initiative and beef, it fit a certain bucket for me superficially. But once I had heard you talking about it and Texas Slim talking about it, the vision was so much bigger than all of that. It struck me as like, oh, I get it. This is an economic and a community and an environmental concern that, you know, in America, we can often be kind of insulated from it. Like we just kind of fast, cheap, and easy, and we're not sick enough. And I was just talking to you offline about how as I get older, I have to become much more aware and mindful of things like diet, amongst other things. But when I was a kid, I could just kind of take diet and where food came from, like where things came from. As I get older and you see, you know, ills in the world, you realize so much hinges right on the food system as much as money. Now, the fiat money system drives the industrial food system we have. But conversely, not everyone can focus or wants to think that hard about money, but everyone eats. And
Yes.
everyone can make decisions about their food. And then magically, you can start feeling better. And if you can support local economies in that effort, you're talking about decentralized ranches. The vision for El Salvador being getting a herd down there for quality beef, empowering local labor, and also empowering people that want to say start a ranch or have help getting a ranch started. And so, I mean, the title of this being like, you talk about a Bitcoin citadel, kind of this idea
Yes.
of being retired and good someday on a Bitcoin standard. You can make your citadel a family ranch, a family farm, a generational wealth that is not just about money or security. It's about
Hmm.
a connection with the earth and a connection to food and a livelihood that is so healthy. So, yeah, tell me about the vision that you told me when we were in El Salvador about the idea
Sure.
of a citadel being your ranch.
Yeah, actually, that's a great starting point. And actually, before we even get there, I want to
Okay.
address what you said about economics. The
Yes,
economic system is not an isolated system, just like your circulatory system is not isolated within your body. It's the thing that actually incentivizes all other behaviors. And so the fiat system incentivizes bad behavior in all sorts of ways. It incentivizes misallocated capital, centralization, authoritarianism, track and trace control systems.
totally.
They want to know everything and
Well, it's
why.
hard if you're starting a ranch. It's hard to turn down money from the government that has
Correct.
strings attached. And it's like, oh, no, we're going to help you. But then, oh, you got
Right.
to do this and you got to do that and you got to count that and report on that. And what are you doing here? And you're competing in a different market. So
It's hard to imagine any service of the government that does it well.
that's
Think of
true.
think of all the excellent outcomes government has created in our society, and it's hard to narrow this down to even one or two.
You look at the
So,
money spent in areas and kind of how it trickles down. And, they're
mhm,
from the government, they're here to help. And the amount of
precisely.
money, I mean, you can look at the Department of Education as an example, but I mean, there's just pick a department, pick an
Yes,
agency.
correct.
How much money is spent for people to do what that is trickling down how exactly and driven by lobbyists and
Yes.
promoting the big corporations and then making it really hard for the little guy
Yes.
perpetually. So,
And it's been an addiction of that money since at least the 1930s, perhaps even before that, for both ranchers and farmers throughout. And that addiction has led them down dark paths of centralization and wiping out family farms, and that's continuing to this very day. So it's very unfortunate. But I will give you my vision for citadels, which we talked about in El
okay,
Salvador,
yeah, let's talk
actually.
about something really positive because
Yes,
I
we'll
want to
start
get
with
into the challenges going on as well. So, but
right,
yes,
absolutely.
I
So
love your vision.
thank you. Well, and it's developed over time as you are able to understand Bitcoin, and the only way you can understand it is to study it for yourself. Have great podcasts, great books, go to conferences, go to meetups, those sort of things are all the ways I've been learning Bitcoin. And what's the motivation for learning Bitcoin? Well, it's a cool technology. No, you're trying to figure out, is this thing actually a safe place to store my capital? That was
Hmm.
my mission. It's like, hey, is there a danger this thing's going to get rug pulled? Is this a danger that quantum computers are going to wipe this whole thing out? Is there a whole? There's recent fears that just come up in the Fudiverse, as it
Yeah, right.
were.
The Fediverse. Yeah.
So those have all been coming through, and those that haven't studied it deeply think that perhaps people that were involved early with it are the downfall of it now. And those that
Hmm.
have studied it deeply understand what it is, what secures it. It doesn't matter who is involved. It is what it is, and it's highly secured. And even very nefarious actors, let's just say North Korea, is mining Bitcoin today to help secure the network for all humans on Earth as a fair, open, peer-to-peer network that's not traced or tracked by, well, it does have an open ledger, but there
Sure.
are ways to provide security within that so that nobody cheats, nobody counterfeits it. There's, of course, the financialization system where tricks can be played, but on the main base layer, when you're actually on main chain transactions and you're holding it in cold storage, it's very hard to be messed with except for social engineering attacks. It's not a
Right.
technological attack, it's a social engineering attack. So that's really the security. Once you understand that, it's transformative for your life. And then as that transformation happens, you go, okay, what do I do with my life? You work some sort of job, you accumulate stack as many sats as you can. And at
Mm-hmm.
some point, you've got enough of a stack that you think, okay, this could actually carry me through, me and my family, for the rest of the time. And I'm not going to quit my day job because I want to keep stacking more for my legacy, for my kids, for my grandkids, and that sort of thing. But
Yeah,
then where do you live? Do you stay in your suburban house in the middle of a big city? And if you do, what's your food security plan for that? Because
exactly.
there may be hard economic times coming that nobody can stop. And we see all the signs everywhere that this fragile economic system has tears and cracks throughout it. So
Yeah.
then you start thinking, well, the first thing you can do is have a relationship with your local rancher, shake their hand, develop a good relationship, and then you're one of their good customers. You fill a freezer full of beef, and that freezer full lasts you for one whole year for your family, or maybe two freezers, whatever it takes. That's
Mm-hmm.
great. But then if that big event comes, whatever that is, or slowly comes, how do you replenish that freezer? Well, one way is keep having that good relationship, but maybe you help your rancher buy a few cows. So you're actually an investor in his herd. And that's something we called herd share. And that's a
Mm.
phenomenal way to secure it, because now your friend, your rancher friend, is actually keeping your beef on cold storage for you on his pasture. That's how I think
Right.
about it. So you have your Bitcoin in cold storage for protection. You want your beef in cold storage for your protection, and you want to have total access to that whenever you want it, just like you do
Yeah.
with your Bitcoin.
People are going to say like, well, I'm not a rancher. I don't know that whole
Right.
business. I mean, it's a lovely idea, but you can get in as a share or get
Yep.
closer to it. And okay, you're not going to run the day-to-day operations, but you're contributing, and maybe you have a share, maybe you do more, maybe you learn a little bit over time, and then you get more involved.
Right. And in the ranching industry, one of the big issues they're having is capital. Just a little bit of capital can go a huge way in the ranching business.
Hmm.
And as Bitcoiners, we collectively can come together and help support those ranchers. We've suddenly gone from losing a farm to actually saving it, and also having you have food security through that rancher that's nearby to you. So if transportation systems go down, you have a nearby rancher that's taking care of you. And so we're losing currently 57 ranches a day. We'll
Yikes.
lose 40% of our ranches in the next 5 years.
Hmm.
So there's a disastrous thing coming. It might even be accelerated because of recent activities in the realm of government as well. So, but before I get there, let's take this idea all the way out. Let's say you've stacked enough sats that you can afford a piece of land, but you still don't know how to ranch. You
Hmm.
can purchase a ranch somewhere in the world, Texas, El Salvador, two really good options, and then you can actually have somebody come in and actually run that operation for you. And that's been a model for over 150 years in Texas. That investors and big cities have actually owned ranches in the panhandle of Texas. So that's one way. You can
Yeah.
also be partially involved, where you're the guy, you have your own herd, maybe it's 1 to 10 cows, something like that. And with a 10 cow herd that you actually know how to manage, then you teach your kids, and you have a multi-generational beef supply that's in cold storage on your own pasture, and only you decide when it's utilized and how it's deployed. So that's the
Yeah.
ultimate, I see as a vision of a Bitcoin Citadel ranch.
And it would be a good kind of KYC, which is know your cattle. Um,
Exactly.
I when I was in El Salvador and Texas Slim was up on stage, and I mean, I'm being funny and rhetorical about it, but it's like, so when I was a kid, I worked on a ranch in the summers for
Nice.
a few years in like middle school, and I was still like learning to work, honestly, and it was good for me because I didn't know quite what hot dust was and cold mud was and what
Hmm.
fix and fence meant. And I learned how to ride a horse, find lost cattle, and
Man.
loved it. And so it planted that seed. And then I get off going in the directions of computer science and corporate world and living in a very urban environment for years.
Hmm.
But a lot of people who live in cities or are just sort of in a certain kind of a corporate world job or whatever, you hunger for the land, for the outdoors. Um, if you're a man, being a man,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it's like I have a fantasy that I would love someday. I would love to, when I've had a hard day at work or something. I'm like, I joke with my wife, but it's like I just want to be a farmer sometime, or I could just, if I were to retire, it would include land. It would be far away from some city that I don't have to go to if I don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be connected to that land, not just like, oh, this feels nice to know the land and work the land, but to benefit from the land, improve the land. I grew up with some tropes about, basically in the environmental realm of overgrazing, tattered land, cows, heating up the clouds because of their farts and all that stuff. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you do ranching and farming well, there is a symbiosis going on that um, proper grazing and raising healthy soil and healthy grass, you're doing it right. And it is very good for an environment. And people want to connect with that and with food security and community economic security. So it's a dream for a lot of people. And so like for Bitcoiners that are evaluating their future Citadel, maybe some retirement plan, maybe it hinges on when and how they retire, but they can
Mm-hmm.
connect to something with a strong purpose that can drive the rest of their lives, and then something to pass on to families.
Absolutely. And you're exactly right. If you have pasture and you don't have any sort of livestock on them, you're destroying that pasture. It's not going into a natural state. It's going into a declining state. It's actually having livestock on there, and different livestock has different effect on it. If you have a really overgrown, shrubby, weedy pasture, put some goats on there, but don't keep them on there forever. Those goats will go through and they'll take all that back down and let the grass come back up through. But to
Mm,
long-term management of that pasture and that soil, the best thing you can put on there are cattle. And this whole thing about cow farts was an attack upon the beef industry, absolutely, because the good that cattle do to pasture and to land is phenomenal if done correctly.
right.
So it's actually there's a whole bunch of practices you can do that are horrible for the land, and that involves putting chemicals on it to try to build soil fertility. What really
Hmm.
builds soil is microbiology. You have to have
Right.
critters in there. You have to have mycelium in there. You have to have things growing in the soil, putting aeration into the soil, putting nutrients, minerals, and biomass into the soil. That's what builds pasture. And cattle do that well. When they're out on the pasture, they're like little Terminator that are like 3D scanning the whole thing, and they're eating the very healthiest thing first for themselves. And
Uh-huh.
that'll vary over time. If they're kind of in a sick state, they'll know eat this thing that's considered a weed, but actually it's the medicine they need in that moment. And they know how to do that. They can manage the pasture very, very well. They're stomping on it, so they're actually creating the disturbance in the top layer of that soil, and they're pooping on it. So all
Hmm.
those things are adding fertilization. They're a land tool. And them just living their lives is like the best thing you can do for a pasture if you treat them right. And basically, put cattle on pasture with grass. They're happy. They're living a good life. Make sure they have water. Make sure they're
Right.
safe. Make sure that you're taking care of their health as needed. But otherwise, that's the real simple part of raising cattle. It's when things get complicated, is when it's the last 60 days of their life, 60 to 90 days, and you want to take them from a certain weight and you want to put 4 pounds a day of weight on them. And that's where some weird processes can get involved with big feedlots, 10,000 cattle all packed together, a lot of disease, a lot of angst. If you can micro that down to a much smaller part, a smaller pen, using better inputs. So not just corn, but something that's actually healthier and more nutritious for them. Something that has minerals, nutrients, omega-3 fats in it. Then you suddenly have healthy cows with healthy meat and healthy outcomes. And you don't need things like antibiotics because you're actually giving them a good life and you're treating them well, which
Yeah,
is
they're not
what we
they're
should
not
want to do
getting
anyway.
yeah, they're not getting sick right at the end of their lives, and you're not trying to fatten them up by shipping them off to a factory that just fattens them up.
Correct.
And plus the stress involved, and who knows
Hmm.
what, an unhappy animal and the toxins and stress in that meat and all that. You got Ryan Cooper as a fan here saying hi, Tomahawk Tom.
It's a good friend from Missouri right there. Good man.
I, I learned something years ago about, see, I was like, well, I'm an environmentalist. I'm, of course, who isn't for the environment? So I
Hmm.
actually, geez, decades ago, but I just went vegetarian for a while. And
Hmm.
after a while of that, because I was going to be like helping the environment and I didn't like the cruel factory farming stuff. And I
Correct.
didn't know any, where else do you get it? And so like being a vegetarian was like my perhaps rebellious, but way that I could do something. I found myself getting tired. I got a job that was more physical in nature, and I was exhausted, and I was having cravings. And I literally, I had cravings for meat. And then as soon as I started eating meat again, I'm like, oh, okay, like apparently I needed this. I'm not going to fight it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was thinking, well, organic farms are good then, right? Like certified organic and all that. Well, I think the intention is there, but I learned something about some farms, like a lot of farms in California that get the organic stamp. But
Yep.
in order to do that, okay, so they're not going to apply like pesticides. And what they will do is they'll use extra water to like sprout up weeds, and then they'll till the ground again, like extra tilling to kill, to bury the weeds and all that, and then quickly plant the plants they want to be organic so that they don't have to spray them, but then they got to grow and harvest those really quickly and then till it again, because they're basically managing the weeds through extra tilling and weird watering cycles that takes more water and sends soil up into the air. And actually organic farms can be losing topsoil. Whereas I would learn about Joel Salatin and Polyface Farms up in the Northeast. I read a book about him, and it's like he is raising grass with animals, not doing anything special, completely organic. It's just a different symbiosis and a different time preference. And you're not taking the government money. Yes, at some levels you like are managing the FDA. We can talk about how the FDA affects anything related to food, but he was basically doing it sustainably and building up an economy around that. And with chickens and things all about it, the animals are just super happy. And so I envision someday I would love to run a ranch where I'm growing grass and the cows are happy. And if there's chickens, the chickens are happy. And maybe I'm not doing all the work, but my family and help can be, and I'm getting other people involved in their connection with the land. I would love it.
That's a beautiful vision. And Joel Salatin has exactly the right model for doing this. So you're exactly right. I took a course from him years ago.
Oh, cool.
And it's all about not just the way to manage the land, but also the finances of all that too, and how to keep yourself free and sovereign and that sort of thing. Although, if you could teach Joel about Bitcoin, that would be a great thing too, because I think that's perhaps the missing piece to really bring it all together. So
yeah, I don't know if he knows about it. I don't know.
I don't know if he does either. And I think that's common in the ranching world, and one of the reasons that the Beef Initiatives does what it does, and what I'm doing out here, being a Bitcoiner, but also talking to both ranchers and Bitcoiners, and educating both about what the other needs. So
yeah, and
part of it.
I'll bring to the stage real quick here. There's beefmaps.com.
Great.
And so you can zoom in on finding like your local ranches in your area that connect with this. And so you can connect with local ranches, get local beef supply. And hey, if you're a rancher, connect with this. And then now here's quite a story as well. Beef.com, kind of big news somewhat recently. Texas Slim secured beef.com.
Correct.
So this was a great grab. Website's still up and coming, but you can sign up with your email and get access.
Thank you so much for highlighting this. And thanks for pointing out beefmaps.com. That is part of the Beef Initiative, and so that's a fantastic place. But beef.com is perhaps the keystone to everything we've been trying to do, that Texas Slim's been trying to do for years. He's been 6 years on the road, talking to ranchers, collecting information from all over the world on all the continents besides Antarctica. He's been everywhere. And so what beef.com is, it's more than just a cute name. It's actually it's a verifiable point of truth, authenticity, and verified what is the nature of beef, what is truly beef. And with this domain name, this is a base layered domain name. This is something that's incredibly valuable. AI.com just sold the other day for 70 million, and then Tether put 150 million investment into it, not even buying it, but on top of that. Boston.com just sold for 400 million. Vegas.com just sold for 240 million, I believe. So these are, And why is that? Because in this world of misinformation, we don't know what's true anymore. We've been misinformed and deceived on so many different fronts and levels that we're looking for places where we can trust authenticity and verifiable proof. And a base domain is not trusted, or not only trusted by humans, but also AIs. They're like, oh, if beef.com says it, if vegas.com says it, if boston.com says it, then it's true for that area of expertise. And
Uh-huh.
so, what have we seen happen in the milk industry? This is just a great example. In the milk industry, what's milk? I go to a barista's recently here in Austin. I'm in Austin at the moment, and they said, "What kind of milk do you want?" I said, "What do you got?" And they said, "We have whole milk, we have almond, we have soy, we have,
Oat.
oat." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, only one of those is milk, and the rest are nut juices." And they're like, "You're right." And I was like, "Yeah, it's an attack. It's not milk anymore. It's white and liquid, but it's not milk."
Hmm.
Let's not kid ourselves. That's not milk. And going back to your vegetarian story, you have this brain fog when you're eating that. Those are seed oil nut milks because they add seed oils to
Yeah.
them. And so we're talking about something that's not milk anymore, but they keep calling it milk and trying to convince us it's milk.
They
So
often
they're
add sugar to make it taste better.
all of that,
Also, almond trees take a lot of water,
right?
and then again, when you get rid of meat, what I found is that nutritionally you're craving the micros as well as the macros. So you can say
Hmm.
you replace macros, but you still need various micronutrients. What people do they'll be hungrier more often, and then okay, you're not getting meat and protein, so unless you're eating really really well and diversely as a vegetarian, you're often eating a lot of fat, like not non-animal
Fat.
fat, and more sugars, a lot of cheese, not
There's
you know
you're starving yourself. It's a
yeah.
food, you're creating a food desert. And I understand why it happens.
Hmm.
It's weaponized against your compassion.
Hmm.
If you think of yourself as a deeply compassionate person, you love animals, you love all people, then they can use that to force you into something that's not in your best interest, which is depriving your body of saturated fat, all whole natural saturated fat. What's the highest source of that saturated fat? It's beef.
Hmm.
There's other meats as well, but beef has the highest concentration of saturated fats, lots of minerals, lots of vitamins you can't get other places. And beef is the one food you can eat solely for the rest of your life and do function very well. You try that with any other food source, chickens, rabbits, cucumbers, carrots, avocados, you're not going to make it. You'll actually die if you try to eat that one sole thing. Beef is the one thing that's true with that.
Yeah.
Going back to that milk attack, it is an attack. That milk is no longer milk, it's something else. That same attack is now happening in beef. They are trying to convince us that it doesn't matter what your source of protein is, all you need is protein. So they have a
Hmm.
protein pact. This is a pact with the four major processors of beef in the world. The four processors, they control 85% of the beef here in the United States.
That's
This is
incredible.
and those all four of those companies are part of the protein pact, which means not giving you real beef, but just giving you protein from whatever source they choose, maybe an environmental source like cricket dust. And
Right.
that's real. And
Mm.
it's not even funny. It's like, holy crap, do you really want to feed your family that? And will they label it as such? No, it's packed with protein. I've seen it in major coffee brands. We have your protein shake, your protein packed with your coffee. And then they're going towards 3D printed meat. So 3D printed meat is not meat, and they'll try to convince you that it is. They just released a book recently that was on NPR that's called Meat, the New Science of Meat, that's not based on
Oh.
animals. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they're coming
The
for it.
new science of meat, the 3D
The
printed
right.
protein product from what?
So yeah, and let's go back to what our biology. We've evolved over a long period of time, and our bodies are attuned to eating certain foods. Are we attuned to eating Cheetos? Are we attuned to eating processed foods? Are we attuned to eating fake meat? We're not. We're attuned. Our bodies, our biology, our mitochondria within our cells are attuned to eating and processing real beef. And so we're here to protect what real beef is. And if they try to convince you it's impossible beef, well, impossible beef ain't gonna fly because it's impossible. Beef comes from
Yeah.
cattle, and cattle are raised on grass, and they're treated well. They're processed in a humane way, not in huge, big microprocessors, but in small regional ones where they can be treated well, and you get a higher density product, higher density nutrients for you and your family, so you can think clearly, you can perform well, and you can actually live a happy and healthy life throughout your entire life. There's no need to go into dementia, and there's no need to go into dysfunction at the end of your life. You can actually feed your body, feed your mind with the proper foods. And our brains are mostly made up of fat. If we don't
Right.
give them good fat, we can't think well. That's why in that vegan state, it's really kind of disorienting. It can be foggy. And when you come out of
Yeah.
it, you're like, holy mackerel, I can actually think now. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Diet totally affects how you feel.
Yes.
And it's important to pay attention to your body. Like, I don't want to be overly prescriptive about, what diet you should have. Everybody's body's different. Some people handle, different diets differently, or
Hmm.
I've known vegetarians that just made a real effort to have a variety and it worked for them. And I'm like, I'm not judging that. I get busy. I take shortcuts. I'll make bad decisions. And then, okay, I'm going to
Sure.
stay vegetarian. And then I'm eating something processed, or I'm eating something that needed to have a shelf life, or that doesn't taste good unless they put a lot of sodium, or yes, it's vegetarian, but it's an organic Twinkie. So now RFK Jr. recently put this out. Now this is a vast improvement. I don't know if it speaks to the fact that these should be like whole foods, but I'd say, well, basically they flipped this upside down, ironically, from what it was.
Hmm.
But what's your take on this generally? Like, you can live fairly completely on meat and dairy. Um,
Well, what I see is that we were lied to.
mhm.
That's what this is truly an admission to. That the food period we were told in school as a children, that our parents were told, that the whole like system was built on, that was a lie, and this proves it. Whether you like this
Mhm.
diagram or not, it's completely upside down from what it was. And so that just exposes that there was a lie going on. Is this one perfect? Probably not, but it's closer. But it does say we were lied to. And I think there should be responsibility and accountability for that. And I think there should be a recognition, since we were lied to, we must all change the way that we're doing this if we really want to prosper. If you look at, the classic thing in the Bitcoin world is the 1970s beach picture and the 2025 beach picture.
Oh,
And
totally.
it's radically different. And what was that caused by? That was caused by a fiat monetary system and a fiat food system. There's no two ways about it. It's processed foods, it's seed oils, it's junk food, junk out. You put junk
Totally.
in and you get that junk result.
Yeah, and the fiat mindset, I mean, infecting our food, it's infected our culture in so many ways that people just want fast, cheap, and easy, and it's just pure calories. And the high time preference, what you're craving now, fill the craving. Being hungry again later is not a problem. It's lower quality. Um, I think just this morning, like Swiss Hodler put something up on X with somebody at a buffet having a tantrum, and there was somebody who should not be eating at a buffet, and it was just kind of like, our culture is sick. And then when things
Hmm.
are tough, we expect a handout or a bailout or government to fix it. The lobbying has been so enmeshed in our food pyramid, or the.
Yeah.
I remember it went from the four squares to, I think, the pyramid, and then kind of this complicated diagram of things, and now it's the upside down pyramid. But hopefully, what we have now is not as overtly lobbied, but at the same time, where the money flows goes straight to like soy and corn, and then like, hey, why don't we just use corn and soy for fuel, or whatever? And it's not quality food. It helps big corporations or even big slaughterhouses and processors function well. But if you're a small supplier, a small rancher, unless you jump a lot of hoops and barely make it and take their money, it's hard to compete with the industrialized food system. So that's
Well,
what a little bit of a Bitcoin injection can totally change a rancher's life.
it can, but there's also an attack that's just come about that is not well known. It's not put in the big media. That is that um our ranchers just lost $7.2 billion, and we lost that through tariff trade with Brazil. And we
Oh,
we had a customer, and our customer was China, for $7.2 billion worth of agriculture projects, primarily soy, and that now is transferred completely to Brazil. And Brazil is their new supplier with all the infrastructure that China built there. And we've lost that. That's going to devastate family farms, and it's not being talked about yet. And there's no way to solve it because China's already found their new customer they helped build in Brazil. And so our farmers are facing more than just an economic decline. We're facing the 1980s of Farm Aid again, and the alarm bell has not been sounded yet.
Yeah, and I just this morning I think saw a deal about Argentina. February 9th. So yeah, yesterday, President Trump, let me throw this up real quick. President Trump moving to boost imports of beef from Argentina to help, of course, ease costs for consumers. But the thing is, it's like, okay, so we can get it for cheaper elsewhere. And I mean, it's not that we want to have a lack of food, but again, these are sweet deals that make it harder for U.S. ranches.
Right. And I'm not here to talk about politics, but there are
Sure.
macroeconomic events happening here that are major impacts on U.S. cattle farmers, cattle ranchers, and these aren't easily solved. And the small rancher has no ability to change these. But the only way that they have to get out is to find an alternative processing and distribution system. So if their only chance is if they have to keep selling to the big four, which is 85% of it, and one of them is Brazilian, JBS is a Brazilian company. The another one's not an American company also. If that's their only place they can put it, they have to pay the price at the big, huge processing plant that they're given to. They don't get supply and demand choice there. But we used to have microprocessors in this country, and especially in Texas, every county had its own cattle microprocessing plant. Those have primarily been wiped out. There's still a few left, but primarily the whole market's driven by the big guys. If we can bring back small regional microprocessors, that gives them another place to have their cattle processed. And then as the beef supply, we're at an all-time low for our herd here in America. Our total beef herd in America is at an all-time low right now. And we're not selling to Americans. We export that out of the country. We have a whole bunch of beef coming from other countries, as that article just showed, coming into America. When you have beef that says American beef, well, it's not up until January 1st of this year. It could be from anywhere in the world. It said made in America beef. And that just means it was repackaged in America, but its source is anywhere in the world. So that's another thing I think American consumers don't realize. The mislabeling and packaging is intense. It's prolific. And what you think you're getting is not necessarily what you are actually getting. That's why having a close relationship with a rancher that you actually know what they're doing, that's how you can best protect your family in terms of getting the nutrition and the quality and the highest density of nutrients that you can get.
And particularly with ground beef, when you go to the store and you're looking for, maybe people often just look for the cheapest dollar per pound,
Correct.
And that's not necessarily, you think you're buying beef like cow came in this way and meat came out on the other end. And basically that 5 pounds of ground beef could be, I don't know, 100 cows, 1,000 cows mixed up in a slurry of who knows what. And it's, yeah.
And it is, and it's primarily that way because of fiat food and centralization. That is, the more you can aggregate different meats together, the cheaper you can make that price. And a lot of that ground beef is trim. So it's when they're actually processing the cows, it's the scraps. They put the scraps to the side. If they're really bad scraps, they go to dog food. If they're human consumable, then they go into ground beef. But that's how you get a whole bunch of cows into 1 pound a package of beef, is because it's all scraps from all over. There is another way to process that where you actually, if you're closer to the farmer, you can actually harvest those big hunks of meat, those primals. If you actually have that, you can have a single source of 1 cow, 1 processed ground beef that's really healthy and good, and using the internal fat from that as that 80-20 blend, which I think is perhaps the tastiest and healthiest blend. Is go to 90-10. People think that's healthier, but really having that higher fat content is what your body needs, and it's a better deal.
Yeah, fat is a good macro for you. Your body, needs that and craves that. And then on the economic end, we're talking about the imports, discussing getting a herd going in El Salvador, growing cattle business in El Salvador. And someone asked, I think, about the bigger picture, like, oh, El Salvador having a new export or being a beef country that could do that. Okay, sure, fine. But you made it clear it was focused on the fact that El Salvadorans themselves don't have access to quality beef. It's providing El Salvador itself with better food and ranches that can feed that country perhaps first. Granted, it grows an economy that can grow into more, but El Salvador needs beef themselves.
Absolutely. And we've Texas Slim and I and some of our other executive team members have all been spending a lot of time in El Salvador recently. We're working closely with the government. We have a contract with the government to relaunch their whole cattle program. So they have cattle in El Salvador. There's some issues with them. They've come out of decades of war, essentially. It's been the cartels, it's been civil war. It's just been a really PTSD-inducing environment for those folks. And Bukele has just rescued that country from in a miraculous way. I mean, I've spent a lot of time there recently, and I love it. It feels like the freest place on earth, the freest country on earth, actually. But that food security point of it is still an issue. That they're bringing in most of their food is coming in from their neighbors, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and they do a lot of farming there, but it's beef that they really need to increase that production and really need some expertise on how to do that. So they've entrusted that program to Texas Slim and the Beef Initiative and to beef.com to bring in experts from Texas down to El Salvador to actually bring cattle, put them on grass. And we're working with the Minister of Agriculture, Oscar, who's been a great ally of ours in doing all of this. And it's been phenomenal working with the government that's proactive, that's actually doing the right thing, that wants to do the right thing, and is open to learning and getting input from the people that know best how to do that. And so it's been an amazing experience. I think in terms of citadels, I consider El Salvador a citadel country, that it is a place of freedom where we have a government that wants to protect its people, wants to make its people do better, that's bringing in the best technology, the best minds of the world. There's they call it a reverse brain dump, but I call it a brain vacuum, a brain magnet, that we have a lot of smart people coming together on those shores and figuring out ways to do everything the best and the right. And we've been touring ranches there, talking to local ranchers and finding ways that we can help them out in immense ways very, very quickly and getting high quality beef on the ground there. And we have a lot of Bitcoiners there that are looking for higher quality beef. So there's a ready market for doing that. And then you're right, we're going to want to keep it within the borders of El Salvador. And as that industry grows and people realize that El Salvador beef is probably the best in the world, it's going to get there. That steakhouses around the world will want to say we serve El Salvadoran aged beef. And so that's eventually where it goes, but not until the country feeds itself first.
Yeah, and I'll throw up the screen here. This was from the Bitcoin office, celebrating the fact that, Texas Slim posted this, but, El Salvador is open for business. They are excited to make these partnerships and have, people come in and create stuff, build stuff, do stuff, and they're incentivizing all that at a regulatory and tax level. I mean, it's basically like, get out of the way and let people do stuff, because I mean, the people that are going to El Salvador to do these things, all the people I met, Bitcoiners and otherwise, they're going for the right reason. These are people with values. They understand sound money. They understand what it takes to have sound business, and they understand what a government could be that we don't get here in America. And so we crave that kind of government and regulation, and it is the best place if you're thinking about. I mean, I was like, I could move to El Salvador. I could move business to El Salvador. If I was going to have a ranch, I could do it in El Salvador.
I agree. I agree with you. And actually, that's a great picture. That's a picture of Oscar, the Minister of Agriculture, and Texas Slim at the end of Bitcoin Historica, which Stacy's team at the Bitcoin office put together. So we've been working with Stacy and Max and people at all levels of the government there. And it's been heartwarming that things are moving in the right direction on so many fronts. And as Stacy says, you can just do things. And that's so true in El Salvador more than any other place. I highly recommend that you come down and look at land in El Salvador. We have a lot of teams down there that are helping gringo expats find pieces of land and talk to some of those folks. I'm also looking myself because I'm so inspired by the place and what they're doing there. In terms of ranching, if you look at the Texas Panhandle or even South Texas, the rainfall there is about 20 to 30 inches a year. In El Salvador, it's 70 to 100. So 3 to 4 times as much rain, which makes it a lot easier to do ranching. The soil is volcanic, which means it's high in nutrient minerals, and it's just pretty fantastic everywhere.
Yeah.
The grasses grow are fantastic, and we went to a regenerative ranch of this Salvadoran man that he was doing things very, very well without even adding in any irrigation. He was told you have to irrigate the dry season, and he says, no, actually I don't. I just have to move them, have them spend twice as much time off the pasture before they come back to it. And he had a thriving pasture that we filmed and we experienced, and it was pretty amazing. He's
Yeah.
looking for better genetics, and that's what we're going to bring to him, is better genetics for his cows.
The Beef Initiative launches phase 1 of historic cattle genetics partnership. That's part of it, is the quality of the herd. It's the AI is artificial insemination. And
it is. We call it AI to AI, artificial insemination to artificial intelligence, or the other way around. It's
yeah,
using
right.
both in conjunction to create this new heritage breed of cattle in El Salvador that's really developed for that particular environment. And
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
the
perhaps
nature of your
what's
ranching in
focusing.
not to interrupt. Yeah. So
No,
like
it's okay.
you were talking about, ranching a little differently. So the nature, the way you might ranch in Texas, Oklahoma is going to be different than you would do it in El Salvador because of, okay, there's hills, the nature of the water coming down, the way the cows need to move a little differently. In Texas or in the Midwest, you've got that great Ogallala aquifer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, you can't rely on as much, maybe just rainfall, or you got to be adjacent to moving standing water if you got the right land. In El Salvador, it might be like, okay, we're not relying as much on a deep well, but it rains enough that we have catch systems and other things that do it differently. But anyway, you've been to El Salvador now, having had a background in in saying Texas and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
If you imagine running a ranch in El Salvador, what are the differences that might on the ground look like?
You've brought up some good points. The rainfall is one of them. Water catchment, digging ponds will probably be a big part of how you develop a ranch there, which we have in the Panhandle as well. And the Ogallala Aquifer is an amazing resource, but we see a lot of the water and the energy in the Panhandle being diverted for other means, other things other than ranching. And some of that is new suburbs happening, new industries such as AI coming in, solar farms, wind farms, and that sort of thing. So there's some issues there. In El
Mm-hmm.
Salvador, there's already great cattle regions within the country. Santa Ana is one of them. San Miguel's another. And so these are areas that have had cattle ranching for a long, long time and a great heritage program there. What they could really use is some more better genetics, the latest technology that we have in Texas and in America that we can bring down there to kind of show them, let's take this to the highest level of ability and technology and then have the best outcome, both for the cows and for the meat that you produce out of that. So things are moving really fast in a really positive direction there. And
Yeah,
there's plenty of land. People say, well, do you have to put the cows on the hillside? No, there are some of those there we've seen, but there's
sure.
plenty of pasture there, and there's plenty of opportunity for and Bitcoiners should come take a look. I think it's worth the trip. And those my friends that have come, they're like, wow, actually this is even cooler than I imagined. So
Yeah, in a future stage of my life, that's exactly where I think I would be. So if you're a
mhm.
Bitcoiner out there and you like the idea of perhaps this lifestyle, perhaps something to have and just simply enjoy, and not have to totally manage all the details. Can a Bitcoiner or anyone, could they reach out to the Beef Initiative and just say, "Hey, I am interested in El Salvador or maybe somewhere else," but
Yeah.
say, "How do I do this? Where can I start? What do I do?
Yes.
Maybe I own some land. Is it good? Or I want to buy some land and help and do, but where?" The Beef Initiative might connect all those people.
We've had all the situations you just described. And part of the beef initiative is Texas Slim's company called Texas Slim Land and Cattle Company, which is
Okay.
giving people turnkey ranches if they want them. So if you just want to be a property owner and have a ranch built on your piece of property, we can bring in the experts to do that from the ground up. In El Salvador, we're looking to train Salvadorans to be the best cattlemen they can be, to be the best butchers we can, have meat processing local. So we're an educational institution as well as beef.com being kind of the center point where we can actually bring in a funnel of resources all over the world to actually do things right, to actually have the liquidity, the funding, and the processing to actually give beef to the world when it needs it most, because we see that there's a collapse in agriculture coming, and we want to avoid that at all cost. We want to be a
Yeah.
way that can mitigate that from just being devastating, because we don't want to go back to the Great Depression. And there's some signs that perhaps we're on the teetering on the brink of such an event.
There are many shaky, quaking threads keeping this system together, and any one random thing or all the things at once. It's sort of like, the old saying recently of nothing stops this train. Exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
as that train flies itself off a cliff, you want to have your foot partway out the door with a plan B, as you might think.
Mm-hmm.
So years ago, I lived in Seattle. I had a corporate job. I was right in the heart of Seattle, and at one level, like, I loved the culture and the vibrant feeling of it. And I'm in my 20s, and I don't have
Mm-hmm.
kids yet. And then as I got married or had kids, it was like, I need to get out of here. And I
Mm-hmm.
moved to a much more rural place. And then I realized that that itself is not necessarily grounded enough for me. I want to be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
where is my water coming from? Where is my food coming from? What is my community actually? And
Mm-hmm.
like, if my functional community was to be winnowed down to something smaller and needs to be sustainable, what does that look like? And so I think a lot of people, I just tell people, man, you do not want to be in a city. I don't think if things get tough, talk about its own little camp. Get out of the city, get yourself some land, get to a community and people that have know-how, and a renewable resource on land that could be a generational family farm or a family ranch. That is like the ideal, historically, the way people lived on this earth sustainably for thousands of years. Get yourself to a foundation where you're living with and on the land in a community that understands that, with an economy that can sustain itself. That, yeah, you may not have the chickens, but they do. They may not have the beef or, the still, but you do. So
You're absolutely right. And this is a big point of Citadels that I think is missed a lot of times, is that the Citadel needs to be integrated into community, just like you're saying. And a great way to build that community is the Bitcoin circular economies. The starting point for that was Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador, and that group is still reaching out and doing great things around the world and promoting those. And then we see him in farming communities. Ryan Cooper, who just popped up earlier with a comment, he's
mhm.
actually in Farmington, Missouri, and they have a great farming community there. Really, just it's a heavenly little place where people work together and do that sort of thing, where people are sharing agricultural products. They're not all Bitcoiners, but they don't need to be. And slowly they're kind of they're holding conferences and things there. So I see that encouragement around the world in a lot of different countries. So that you're quite right. And I think that's also protects children from having their careers wiped out by AI. We're looking
Yeah.
at this future, and a lot of our younger generation, our Gen Z, are going, where's my future? I can't afford a house. I can't even get a good job, and good job I can get is about to get wiped out by AI. Even my bad job is about to get wiped out by AI. What can I do? Well, it's time to turn back from the cities where all the farm kids went to for decades now, and go back to the family farm, or create a new family farm, or somehow get involved in it. And if you're helping raise cattle, if you're actually involved, their hands in the dirt, you're creating food, shelter, water, air. These are Maslow's hierarchy of needs. These are what we're working on. Your job is to make sure you've secured those for yourself and your family. And as you do that, you create abundance. and you share that with the community, and that's AI proof jobs. That's AI proof purpose. And the closer you are to nature, I think the better mental health we have. You know,
Yeah.
being stuck in cubicles under fluorescent light, doing AI jobs that are pushing us to our limits and making us less and less critical thinkers is a dangerous path. And we
Yeah.
need to be aware of that. And I think going back to an agriculturally based system that still uses the high technology where it's needed, but actually reinstilling family values, which I see a lot in the Bitcoin world, where people in the 30s aren't having kids, but in the Bitcoin world, kids in their 30s are having kids. And thank goodness for that. This is what we need for our species. This is species
Absolutely.
level problems we're talking about here.
Yeah. I mean, fixing the food and the food system can fix the world. And there are so many family farms that are under stress and at the threat of going under, like you said,
Hmm.
57 a day. And I mean, imagine the prospect of like this generational family farm that you had, and you're under pressure to lose it.
Yes.
Suicide rates among ranchers and farmers is high.
It's
I
higher
mean,
than it's higher than veterans right now. That's how bad it is.
wow.
Yeah, and you can imagine why. If you're the third or fourth or fifth generation that's been entrusted the family farm and now you're losing it, I mean,
Oh,
that's
it's
really it's
existential.
heartbreaking. Existential, correct. It
Yeah.
actually is.
And so these farms need your help. And it's not just like, oh, they need easy injections of money. They need
No.
people who will help be part of it. Just at whatever level you're at. Maybe it's like, well, I can't go and buy a ranch. Okay. But maybe you participate in some level. Maybe you start buying the meat, or maybe you do change a lifestyle and you just start helping out on a ranch or learning the system, learning how to be a cowboy, and go from there. I mean, so as a kid growing up, it'd be like, okay, you could go to university and get your indoctrination, or you could go get a job where you're learning these day to day on the ground with your hands, getting dirty skills, and becoming part of a ranch and work your way. Okay, so here's a quick little backstory: is that my family, we don't really know the backstory, but back in the um, late 19th century, 1890 or something, my great great grandpa fled Germany down through Ukraine, left from Odessa, and took a ship to Ellis Island. And when
Yeah.
they landed on Ellis Island, my my great grandpa didn't speak a lick of English, but in well, yeah, neither my great great grandpa nor his son, my great grandpa, spoke a lick of English.
Hmm.
Um, and they went from Ellis Island, they beelined out to Nebraska and joined up and learned how to cowboy. And they started working on a
Oh,
ranch, and they
cool.
became ranchers. And then over time, they bought some cows and they bought a little land, and then they
Hmm.
built a big ranch up. And they consider themselves Americans. They
Hmm.
they were not. I mean, great grandpa spoke German, but they were Americans, and they loved America, and they were cowboys. And then they built up to have a sizable ranch, and then they ran an auction yard and all that stuff. Then came the Great Depression, and they were good on all their debts, but they uh, effectively lost their ranch back in the
Hmm.
1920s, I guess.
Hmm.
I think they held on to a little bit, but they had to sell off a whole bunch. And so I have those roots, and but there was a cultural pride and a spirit to all that we should get back to. And I just think that that's the key for kids today that need a purpose, is to work your way back into that. Go make your life adventure. Have some courage, learn some new skills, and do it on a ranch.
I
Um,
think you're right. And I want to speak to your family history because it's beautiful and also tragic at the same time.
it's
And
crazy.
and we have to acknowledge acknowledge your family and the great immense wealth they created to the ranch, and that it was stolen through them through the financial system.
Exactly.
The
They
central
lost it for
the, ce-
nothing but the dollar.
and the Great Depression was not an accident. It was not a fluke of the financial system. It was designed by the Keynesian economic system. It was designed in 1913 is when we had the Federal Reserve was created, the IRS was created, and a lot of other things were created right on that same year. And then World War II, World War One happened right after that. in response to that, then the Great Depression. Was it avoidable? Was there a way to get around that? Well, they were printing money for free while everybody else had to work for it. It was backed by gold and silver at the time, but they engineered. Whoever are in charge of this financial system, did that and wiped out your family farm. And we're seeing that again right now. That this is the problems that ranchers are facing are not due to rainfall primarily, are not due to the health of the cattle or the health of the land. It's due to the financial system that incentivizes them to have to behave in a certain way. And this $7.2 billion that just got ripped out of the ranching, the heart of the ranching of America, they didn't do it. That was not by them. That was not their fault. And yet it's going to devastate farms and ranches throughout. And it's a crisis that's going to wipe out these family farms that there was no way to plan or move around that. I think Bitcoin will help both farming and ranching immensely. They don't know a lot about it. As Bitcoiners, I think it's our duty to help educate them with humility, because a lot of Bitcoiners just showed up to ranchers with arrogance,
Oh,
and it's been quite bad. I've heard a lot of reports from ranchers that are saying, "Hey, don't come to me as a young 20-something kid telling me I don't know what I'm talking about when I've been in this business for 30 years." And I may not know what the halving cycle is, and I may not know, what a
sure.
difficulty adjustment is, but I know how to run a economical ranching operation. And if you can explain it to me unemotionally with logic, that's asking a lot of questions with humility, then I think we can get somewhere. And that hasn't been the case up to this point. So I think there's an
Mhm.
opportunity for Bitcoiners to be really generous to their knowledge, the time, and their humility.
And that's what I hope Bitcoiners, that maybe you do expatriate to El Salvador, is that you go with humility and integrate and do what you can do for El Salvador, and not, don't go with your fiat monkey brain. um,
Right.
or like, well, I know all about Bitcoin, or I've got resources or whatever. But yeah, integrate. Now, a quick corollary to my family story is that
Okay.
When World War II broke out, my grandpa had worked with cows, calving, doing all the gritty things that come with cows and veterinary work. And
Mm-hmm.
so he was considering becoming a maybe studying in veterinary school. Along comes World War II, and he gets enlisted, and they look at his skills and they're like, "Well, we're going to make you a medic because you've cut into animals
Animals.
and
Yeah.
you've done that, and you're not squeamish and you can handle it." Well, so then off he gets shipped. He went in behind after D-Day. He was left flank of Patton and basically cleaned up messes across the battlefront for, I don't know, a couple of years there,
Wow.
through France into Poland and Germany, and then the camps. But basically, he had nightmares for years. But he was
Mm-hmm.
enlisted in the army as a medic because of his veterinary school. But then here it comes. The Empire swoops in with their fiat tournament
Mm-hmm.
and swept him back to homelands they escaped from 100 years earlier. So
Wow.
crazy, full
Uh,
circle there. But
yeah.
now it brings me to a broader point here: is that the battle against tyranny can really start with not just money but food. And
Absolutely.
corrupt and evil powers, they go after food systems. They destroy and control food, even in
Correct.
small little war torn areas. It's not
Yes.
just like what we see in the big lobbying and the industrial food complex, but I mean, you've got quite a story from El Salvador itself about, why are they lacking quality beef? They've got the land. At one point, didn't they have cattle and stuff? Well, during, when the cartel wars and stuff were going on, the cartels went after food as well. They'd go into a
Mm-hmm.
ranch, and they'd see people with maybe some sovereignty or power, not to say
Mm-hmm.
power, but just capability,
Yep.
and they'd squish that. They'd shut down local food sovereignty, and it killed the cattle business down there. The breed of cows they have today, at least.
Yeah, I've heard reports of whole herds being shot down by machine guns just to cause to take away power.
Yeah.
Quite horrifically. And another man who lived through all those years, he defended his lands with guns and men, and on top of a hill. And it was a very much a citadel, a kinetic citadel defense. So
Wow.
Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
And not
there's
to
some
say
other.
that America would get there, but I mean, thinking about first
No,
principles of,
well,
you
to your
never
point,
know.
to your point, and wars are never announced. That's something to remember. They don't say, "Hey, we're about to start World War One. You better get ready," or "We're about to start World War Two. You better get ready." It's like they just happen. And in this age of warfare, if you want to look up something interesting, look up fifth generation warfare, and it's an information warfare. And you might find out that we may be involved in some aspects of that right now. And that information warfare, one of the things they're going to go after is food security, because if you can take out food security, then people can't resist you. If you actually people are starving, then you actually create a kinetic environment for looking for resources and a lot of
Uh-huh.
blame, and that's how you can incite a civil war. And it's happened. Yeah, there you go. You're so
Just
good at
quickly, I
this.
mean, granted, this is Wikipedia, but warfare conducted primarily through non-kinetic military actions, social engineering, misinformation, cyber attacks, AI, autonomous systems, a war of information and perception. Well, golly
Yeah,
gee, aren't we facing the propaganda every day today?
right.
And then
And
the things that go on in the world, you could get, I guess you'd say, conspiratorial about it, but the veil of what we think is real, it's like you take the red pill and you
hmm
can start to pierce that. There's the orange pill, the purple pill. Now there's a meat pill.
hmm
There are layers to this that you start seeing the entire world differently and going, oh my goodness, we are in the throes of a matrix, I guess you'd call it,
Yep.
is, basically.
It's like that. It also looks somewhat something people can relate to is the Truman Show.
Yes,
And
right.
we're all inside of some version of the Truman Show. And if you want to see it, I mean, oh, well, that's just hyperbole. Go look at the new suburbs that are being created. Look how close the houses are. Look how big the houses are. And look at the infrastructure around them. Look at the ability to grow food within those neighborhoods. There's not. And those
Yeah.
are happening all over our country. I'm here in Austin right now, and they're sprawling away from the city in all directions, and the farmland's being eaten up. So there's something going on. If you live in those, that's fine. I've lived in them as well. I grew up in that kind of environment. But we also had a family farm. I was kind of lucky with a multi-varied background. Uh,
You're in a
and
factory farm.
yeah,
um,
this sort of thing. So this is the sprawl. This is what's taking over our sovereignty. You can't have cattle in that. You can't even have a garden in that because that's against HOA rules. And so what's allowed, what's not allowed, that sort of thing is quite amazing. Looking at the history of that, how that all came about, with both World War One and World War Two is very interesting. And with the financialization of that, and how that's been used as a way to extract energy, time, and capital from people all over the world, but particularly Americans. A 30-year mortgage, what is that? Is that a gift or is that a sentence?
yeah, right. And hey, now we got our 50-year
50-year.
mortgage.
Exactly.
Or even you
So,
want a car, get a what, 20-year car loan, or I don't know. I mean,
right,
just
right.
why not debt forever? And then you have nothing to pass on except maybe even just debt to your kids.
Well, the government would like to be the company store for everybody. And when you're beholden to the company store, you can't ever get away from it. So that was the coal mining. Back in the coal mining days, you'd go be a coal miner, but you always owed the company store, so
Right.
you could never leave the coal mines.
You're paid in their
So
script. You pay taxes in their script. You got to buy their stuff
correct.
with their script, and they print more script for you.
There's quite a bit there. Yeah. So I mean, we're talking about freedom, we're talking about sovereignty. Do what you can to do best for you, your family, and your friends. No matter what your situation is, even if you're in a horrible. And we were talking with a Uber driver here in Austin the other night, and it was a really sad story. He's driving as hard as he can for 6 years now. He has no free time. He's really pretty desperate and depressed, and we're trying to give him solutions of how to get out of that, and talking about Bitcoin a little bit, but also talking about, hey, what are you good at? What do you love? What do you dream? How can you imagine another future? And it's changing mindset and consciousness. And
Hmm.
that's really where the trap is if you're kept in a low form of consciousness, then you are in a trap that you can't get out of. Beef can be one of those things can get you out of it. So it's adding nutrients to your brain, the mindset that you live life with, the friends and family that you have around there, and affecting them and changing them, raising everybody up. If we're in a low state of vibration, if we're in a anxiety, depression, if we're in um, just angry,
fear and anger.
Fear, anger. Fear is a big one. And if we're in fear and they want to create fear, one way to create fear is take everybody's food away. That creates massive fear, and then they've won. So let's together help raise each other up, and do something useful. And
Yeah,
something useful is make sure that we have our Maslow's hierarchy needs met, and that's through education, through cooperation, through food production, through sovereignty technology, through Bitcoin, through Nostr, so that we can have a communications that we can communicate around the world without anybody's permission. And
right.
these are important technologies. This is the Citadel, and we're all part of the Citadel together. It's the Citadel mycelium. So we're all
Right,
interconnected
right.
in our family, our community, our nation, and our whole world. So it's not just stacks, save the money, save the world. It's save the money, do something really useful and important, and then we can save the world. But
Yeah,
it takes action. It's not just stack sets and stay humble. You actually have to do something useful. And helping with food production is a huge part of that. And helping sovereignty spread everywhere as we can.
yeah. Bitcoin is hope. Go out there and do something with that foundation. And Sailor's got his hope.com. The
He
Beef
does.
Initiative has beef.com. Now
Indeed.
you do a lot of traveling. Now,
Yes.
as I imagine, when I travel and you're spending time in airports, or you're in an unfamiliar locale, or you don't always get to pick and choose your normal maybe sources of food. How do you handle your diet, or manage being hungry or finding food when you're traveling? You'll eat a variety of stuff. So when you're in a locale, you'll partake in local foods and
Hmm.
whatnot. But is that
It's
hard at all
been
for you?
it's been a lot of travel. The last 6 months, I've barely been home actually. Since we
Yeah.
saw each other at the Veterans event, I really haven't been home much since then. Christmas, New Year's, that was about it, and a few
Uh-huh.
stops-ins here and there. When Texas Slim and our team went down to El Salvador, we actually brought a cooler full of frozen beef that was high quality beef, Texas Slim cut beefs. So from his actual production line, and we had that, and we were grilling it up for friends, for ourselves. We weren't passing too much out because we just had a cooler full, but we can bring down whole pallets and containers of beef to El Salvador now. And so there's a lot of Bitcoiners very excited about that, and that's something that's on the cusp of being realized. So we do
Awesome.
that. We also just look for the best we can find in the situation that we're in. I mean, we're gonna not eat from the center aisles of the grocery store. We're gonna find beef tallow chips we just found the other day here in Austin.
Nice.
We get the highest quality beef we can. We eat at restaurants that are high quality as well. And you do the best you can when you're on the road. It's easier when you're home, and back home we have half a cow in the freezer, so we're ready to go there.
Yeah, Texas Slim has his value pack,
Yes.
box of Texas Slim's cuts.
Yes.
You can actually go to texasslimscuts.com, and you can get a box of the beef if you want here.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
And
Yeah,
there's
here's
a
his.
and there's a lot more options coming available for that as well. So that's because of beef.com. We have a lot of huge things that we can't announce yet, but we have a lot of partners that are coming on board, a lot of there's just so much we can do with that domain, and it's actually happening in real time. So Slim's, he's out talking the big deals right now with partners, investors, and that sort of thing. So we have a lot of huge announcements coming up. Just yesterday, we had a press release of what some of the intention behind beef.com is, and our relationship in El Salvador. So that was just announced. So this is a timely podcast to talk about that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of things are coming. So you go to beef.com now. You can subscribe and get connected. But what's coming here is going to be a portal to connect to a beef network, and it's going to be a variety of different things for whether you're just a consumer of beef, or whether
Hmm.
you want to invest, or whether you want to run and operate.
Hmm.
It's a good model to have, where it's multifaceted for whoever is getting their toes in the water, or maybe jumping in the pool. You can, connect at whatever level you want to. So,
Absolutely.
um, you and then so culturally too. I mean, you reposted a video that basically was like, and I have kids of various ages, and it's very common that they're it's a digital world. They relate to the online virtual stuff easily. Maybe they go to a
Hmm.
public public school. And and you got two parents working, you're busy. Even as good parents, it's hard to have kids have a sense of purpose all the time. Like, depending on where you live, like kids can have their routines and your chores and your habits and your family time and your faith and other things.
Absolutely.
But sometimes they don't know what legacy they're inheriting, or it's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it's like, I don't know. Like, it's a crazy world. They don't know. So basically,
I don't blame them for not knowing.
yeah.
I mean, my goodness, the wall of issues that are being passed down to them are intense.
Hmm.
When I was their age, I knew that I could go to college if I wanted to. I knew I could buy a home, that wasn't out of the realm of possibilities. I knew I could get a good job. None of those are true now. I mean, none of those are a certainty at all. You can go to college. Are you going to get education that means anything? That's very uncertain at this point. Are you going to ever to be able to buy a house? Well, no, because we're using real estate as a monetary store of value, and that's what's
Hmm.
happened. It's inflated price in real estate due to the lack of security of the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is a horrible
Yeah.
place to store value. So the entire boomer generation has wonderful $500,000 and $1 million houses that they bought for $20,000 or $50,000 or whatever. Well, that opportunity is not being passed down to their children and grandchildren, and that's criminal. It's not a crime. It's not anybody's crime. Well, the crime might be this whoever centralizes our money. That's where the crime is actually happening.
Exactly.
And what fixes that? I think Bitcoin fixes that. It's the opting out of that system that's devastated their future and has robbed them of a future that's often causes them to be nihilistic, which is
Hmm.
tragic, or possibly communistic because there's no known good options that they look to communism as a good option, and it's not. It's
Right.
provenly not. It's not a good option, and Bitcoin is the option they're actually looking for. And it's great to see a bunch of Gen Z influencers out there that are talking to their own peers because their peers will only listen to their peers. They're not going to listen to old guys like us. Maybe, maybe if we're kind of cool with them, they might listen to us a little bit, and we hope for that. And we want to be part of their podcast, but really we have to be invited into that conversation by
Uh-huh.
them so we can speak their language. And I think we have some great solutions. I think Bitcoin, I think Nostr, and I think beef.com are great solutions of places they can find opportunity, they can find hope. I'm talking to some young men in their early 20s here in the Panhandle of Texas. They're going to come out to our property in Colorado and actually do hard work. We need some building stuff done. We need some gardening and farming, and they're like, come live on our land and stack some sats and do some hard work. And they're like, heck yeah, we want to do that. So find those opportunities as you're building your Citadel. Don't, look for Bitcoiners. And my friend Ryan, that's in Missouri, that popped up there, he's doing the same thing. He has a fencing business that's awesome, and he's got Bitcoiners working on that. They could do something different, but they want to be something part close to the ground and get Bitcoin. So it's pretty awesome. We have those opportunities. Let's make them.
Yeah, ranches need their good cow
Yes.
hands, cow pokes, and
Yeah.
people that are willing to learn and put in the work and then grow from there. And if it's the older guys, like say you and me and others that
Hmm.
can pave somewhat of a path for that, and then it looks more like an up, not just a direction that you could go, but like a real opportunity.
Right.
Younger generations can start plugging into that more and more and see that as a viable direction. It's not like, oh no, go to the university, get your degree, and then you're trained to go into the corporate world. Well,
It's
I
a
mean that,
sham.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
sham. And what I see, and what I part of what I would like to do for that is we have something called Cowboy Camp inside the Beef Initiative, and it's part of beef.com, is that come in and we actually can work on these properties, learn to be the cowboy, or learn just construction or welding or whatever it is these skills are. And then you can go out and purchase a raw piece of land somewhere in this world. Then you
Mm.
can build your own house, build your own fences, do all the hard. You've learned the skills to build, and your family, instead of having a 30-year mortgage, you actually build it yourself. Back in the pioneer days when we had homesteading back in the early to mid 1800s, that was the most secure we were as American people because everybody's decentralized. We actually had our own homesteads, we had our own means of production, and we owned our own stuff. That's what I would can see us get back to as not just a country, but as a global concept of sovereignty, is decentralized food production and the needs that we have, we can exchange in Bitcoin, and we can actually build a circular economy of the entire world.
Yeah, and it fixes the culture of things too, where like, okay, Mom Donmy gets elected in New York and whatever, and so there's a
Right.
lot of young people that are like, clearly things are corrupt and broken, and I didn't get mine, and they got theirs,
Right.
and so down with whatever. And so, and here's government with their temporary, permanent solution, and it follows the it goes through the gate of the welfare state, I suppose, or the
Mm-hmm.
universal basic
Mm-hmm.
income, or all the CBDC and all the things. And it's just the same,
Mm-hmm.
dead end fiat game. Uh, Working on a ranch can provide the solution to that.
Yep.
And I think that it'll help grow people up as well. But there's an aspect to ranching that involves horses.
There most
Not that
certainly
you,
is.
not that you have to have horses, but horses are another whole skill set in an area that I rode horses to go find lost cows out in the periphery of the woods sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. And in my fiat job, I work peripherally with, so there are people with drug and alcohol addictions or mental health problems, and they may go to programs where they, get treatment and stabilization and all that. There are
Mm-hmm.
programs in our state here that have equine therapy. And so
Mm-hmm.
just there's something about horses as well. When you've worked with them or formed a relationship with them, there's a spirit to the horse and to all animals, but horses are a special kind of animal. Equine
Mm-hmm.
therapy has helped people with a variety of issues that is interestingly, weirdly connective to something spiritual, perhaps. And it's something that a cowboy, not to say they would take it for granted, but they get it. It's just like, yeah, horses are cool. Working with horses, riding horses, caring for horses, and the horse reciprocates.
Absolutely.
That's
Horses
something
are,
special.
I think you're absolutely correct. It's a spiritual connection, and horses have huge hearts. The Cherokees refer to them as big dogs. I mean, we all have love dogs and how big their hearts are. Horses are even bigger. And cowboys have a deep relationship with horses. It's a deep part of the tradition, and it's essential for real ranching. Horses are. You
Yeah.
can do it with helicopters, drones, and ATVs,
ATVs, I guess.
but
Yeah.
it's not the right way to do it. For either the horses or for the cattle. The cattle want to be around horses. There's a synergy there that the cattle and the horses know each other, and it's the right way. And there's some parts of land that you're not going to get ATV across a gully and a ditch that a horse is going to navigate quite easily. And so there's that. Within the Beef Initiative, we do have a program specifically what you're talking about is the healing benefits of horses. It's called the Windy Whispers program, and it's primarily women working with equine therapy horses for women and men, but there's a special connection between women and horses that's undeniable as well. And so that's part of, and you're such a good researcher. You're bringing up
I'm
things in
just
real times.
I'm just
But
trying to
see,
look things up as you go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so Wendy Whispers is something that's gonna get more momentum as beef.com is coming online, and it's something we're very excited about. So, and it's exactly what you're saying is there's a spiritual connection, there's a healing component. There's a lot of veterans that have been through these equine therapy programs. There's a lot of rehabilitation for prisoners through that as well, and just all folks walks of life. People like want to get back to nature, and being on horses is a great way to reconnect with a loving, amazing animal, but also being in nature as well.
Yeah. For a lot of people, it's like their dog might, there are dogs that are very good for that. But man, something
Hmm.
about horses is special. And I don't know if this is
Hmm.
exactly it, but this is something like it perhaps. But basically,
It's something like it. It's not our program, but yeah, something along those lines.
yeah. So I've seen it work, and that's the thing for a lot of people, the void that has been created in our hearts and our souls, that we're desperately trying to fill, and that's easily remedied through a sick care system of sort of short term, fill the gap little distractions or addictions.
Right?
And to fill that wholly, what I've seen with people with sickness has been those much deeper. It's spiritual, basically.
It
It's
is.
it's a spiritual void that people have, and so um, the horsemanship, connecting with ranching, And through, the whole package is like a complete solution for not just the soil and the environment and the food system and that economic money system, spiritually and
Mhm.
culturally. It's a lifestyle that is, it's core to humanity and touches something deep in our spirit that has been around for thousands of years. And that I think if we're going to be sustainable, like let's say things do get worse, fall apart, break bad,
Mhm.
don't be stuck. Make your Citadel a ranch. That sounds
Yes.
like a good solution.
It's a very good solution, and I think we've talked a lot of different ways that that can look. You can still live in an apartment in the middle of the city and start working on a Citadel anyway. You know, you don't have to be on a ranch, but start there, but you may be moving in direction towards that. So find those points of sovereignty. Bitcoin, of course, is a great one to opt out of this fiat system. Nostr is a great way to connect with people around the world. But having that relationship, even if you're sitting in the middle of the apartment in the middle of the city, you can still have that direct relationship with a rancher, and that's one arms reaching out to the country to say, "Hey, I have a point of security." And the better you can make that security to the land and to communities, help build circular economies, all of
Mhm.
this contributes to it. And so we're going to be doing a lot of things around sovereignty for independent ranchers around the world, people that are doing it right, people that are interested in real beef from real cows, not 3D printed meat,
Mhm.
people that are interested in helping our kids. You know, this is about building families, having raising families, doing it in a very healthy way, staying close to the land, having accelerating 4-H programs, having kids learn how to raise with animals and actually bring back to the country a cowboy culture lifestyle in a
Mhm.
way that's meaningful, that actually speaks to the soul, that is spiritual. Because what I found on my spiritual path is that the real thing is letting go of your ego and being responsible and mature as a human. And that's always sounded, well, I don't want to have to be responsible. Well, no, actually, that's the greatest path of freedom. Because with responsibility, you no longer are waiting for somebody else to help you. You're actually helping yourself and taking action for yourself. And I think everybody can learn from that. And the cowboy code, the cowboy way, is a path of great responsibility, great respect. Because if you don't have it, the land, the horses, the animals, it's going to teach you hard lessons, and it may teach you
Mhm.
anyway, but the greater systems you have in place and the greater maturity you have and the greater support systems you have, the more successful you'll be in that. And so it's a spiritual path. I really believe that. Without
Totally.
any particular religion involved, because ranching is around the world and all cultures. The cow is a sacred being for a good reason. It's tightly bound to the human experience
Uh-huh.
and to the monetary system. A ounce of gold for thousands of years has been the price of a cow, and it still is today.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's financial wealth. It's actually beef.
Yeah.
It's the new gold because it's the
It's
gold you can eat. You can't eat Bitcoin, you can't eat gold, but you can eat beef. So it's the wealth you're actually looking for.
and you can take cattle and beef into self custody.
You can take it into cold storage on your own pasture.
Cold storage on the hoof.
Yeah.
Um,
And whether you own that pasture or not is fine, but
yeah.
do what you can with your current situation, and I think everybody can do a little bit more to make themselves food secure. Just taking some
Absolutely.
intention behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a path forward and out of the FUD world we got, so that people can connect with you.
Oh, thank
You
you.
can be found at Tom Tabor Hoddle on X.
Correct. Thank you.
Um, and obviously there's beef.com. You can sign up there for updates. This will be evolving and growing and
Yes,
becoming much more. The beef maps show you where a lot of ranchers are.
absolutely.
The beef initiative is here.
Yep. And then
Uh,
also look up Texas Slim here. He's Modern Tea Man on X. Oh, he's right.
Modern
That's it.
Tea
Modern
Man.
Tea Man. That's the
You can
guy.
find Texas Slim. You're working closely with him. He had to um, uh, work on you for a while to get you to, because you're so busy. But he,
I I would say it was divine, actually, for both of us, that we actually, at the right moment, I came along and said, heck yes, let's do this together. And for both of us, it was a really divine experience that kind of, we keep having different events happening. Going, well, doesn't seem like that could have happened any other way than to being like somebody's bringing a hand down to make this all happen for us. So it's pretty very special, and our friendship's grown stronger. We've been on the road together for months now, so it's been a very close association and relationship for both of
He's a
us.
great guy, and he's got a wide variety of even tech and financial experience, but he's settled upon really something tangible and solid and core to humanity. Great guy. I just his whole presence, and when I saw him on stage in El Salvador, I mean, he's a magnet, and
Yes.
it's awesome that you connected with him and were able to jump in the pool and go. So
I didn't fully appreciate what a genius he was until he had close association, and he's got an amazing plan to help save humanity through beef. And so that's what we're doing exactly with beef.com. And so it's all coming together, and keep paying attention, and drop your email in there and we'll keep you in the loop as to what we're doing.
awesome. And you know, he reminds me of, I've met a lot of, through my life, and you know, in places I've lived and people like family and friends and people I've met a lot of farmers and ranchers that are quite brilliant, but are just so humble and demure about it. They're not overtly like, "Oh, you're real smart," and you can. I mean, someone from a city can go in and, like you mentioned, the Bitcoiners. You can feel like, "Oh, well, you're a farmer. I know all this city stuff." They have a deep wisdom that they're just not loud about. And so Texas Slim can present like, you know, well, I'm a rancher, I do beef and cattle, or I've met farmers like, I'm just a farmer. But you get to know them, and they know the system in and out, and they've got a different time preference.
Absolutely. And a cowboy's never going to brag.
That's part of the cowboy code.
It's part of the cowboy code. So
yeah,
you'll
you
never
get
know.
these hot, flashy cowboys coming in, and they get called out quick. It's like, okay.
Well, and respect is an easy thing to lose and very hard to get back. So I think you present yourself, and if you're not coming with integrity, it's not gonna go so well. So it's best. I mean, they may be somewhat forgiving, but you're not in the inner circle unless you walk with the highest integrity in every part of your life.
Yeah, and yeah, prove it.
Proof of work is big in
proof
the
of work
ranching world.
is what it is. Proof of work.
Absolutely.
So, Tom, it's been great having you. I really appreciated the conversation.
Thank you, Fritz. Indeed,
I am
me too.
super excited to see what's coming. And
Yes.
And then
Great.
someday I want to, if not work on a ranch, help operate and pass on a family ranch. So that would be
sounds beautiful. And I think Bitcoin makes passing on family ranches possible, where it's been really impossible for hundreds of years now. It's been hard to do that.
Yeah.
So it makes a big difference. I appreciate that. I appreciate your deep insight into all this, your great research, all of it. Thanks, Fritz. This has been really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I learned a lot meeting you, and then you know, just the prep I do for the podcast, but learning more and more about everything you're working on. It was like, oh wow, I've learned a lot, and it's inspiring.
Thank you.
I'm inspired by the work you're doing, and I'm really excited for it. So
we're looking for people to join up. So if you're interested, drop your name, and we'll see where we can take all this together.
Beef.com, folks. So thanks for joining us, everybody. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks, Tom.